Hello, everybody. My name is Corey Rosen, and you're listening to the Story Podcast. Today, we have on a super awesome guest, a returning guest, Mr. Justin Angelo. Justin Angelo is a Lancaster-born singer-songwriter who plays in the regional and surrounding areas for 8 years before transplanting over to Key West, where you currently reside, and come back every now and then. And he's back at it. What have you been up to since we've had you on?
A more consistent schedule, a more consistent sleep cycle. I think that's important.
Nice.
Yeah.
I need to get one of those.
Vocals are doing good. A couple weeks ago, I had them shove a tube down my throat because I was having like a lot of like mucus coming up, like just from singing so much, and you know, I take like a long periods of time, but I had them shove down a tube down my throat, and there's zero vocal damage. So
That's amazing.
that's great.
It can really make or break something.
Well, being able to play 2 and 3 shows like in a day, and then realizing that you don't have any vocal damage is a huge weight off your shoulders. So
Yeah, sure.
doing something right, I guess.
So, last time we had like a 3-hour conversation.
Yeah.
So if you want to learn all about Justin and everything he's about, you can go check out that episode. But we're gonna hop to the future, or to the now, I should say. And you've been working on a lot of different stuff since we've last seen you. You've got a new setup. You've got some new live streaming equipment. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So I'm friends with a couple dudes down in Key West now that are just like audio heads like me. So I end up buying stuff from them. Like someone's like, "Oh, I want to sell this amp," and it's like an AER and Udo Rosner, like Tommy Emmanuel's amp company, and I'm like, "Well, that's cool." So I bought the Udo. That was the first one I bought, and it has like every single out on the back, so it's great for the studio. So I used that out for about 2 months and was like, "Well, this thing has every out. I'm gonna put it in the studio." So then he's like, "Well, I'm gonna sell this AER." I'm like, "Okay, well, let me get that then, so I can use that for the live stuff, so I can use this for the studio." So it's a lot of that. Working on, I'm like 95% of the way completed doing a live stream setup for my recording process. So what I'd love to do, what I see myself doing, is like sitting down and going, okay, this is what I have, and showing like the voice memo, and then showing me bringing that to life. Because that's something that, like, I played with Kyle Hiltz, was my songwriting buddy for like a very, very long time, and a great writer. And we had like this song called Keep Driving. And when my dad was in the hospital, before he passed, like he would like play this thing over and over again. And I listened back to that album now, and I'm like, like the song's good, but like this album is like it's not like an album, it's just like a demo.
Right.
But I'm like, this is so bad. But then me and Kyle took the time to like bring that song to life, and that's when I was kind of realizing like, oh, I could show this whole process, because it went from being this like muffled sound recording to something that's like you breathe life into a thing, kind of in like a Rick Rubin sort of way. So like that's kind of what I'd like to do, is kind of show more of my actual process in that, instead of being like, here's this nice polished thing, here you go. I want to show the messy part of it.
Yeah, that's something I've really been enjoying doing on the podcast too. I don't know if you've seen that I've done the songwriter studio.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was an idea when you
Yes.
were on the show last time.
Yeah, you threw it up on Facebook.
Yeah. And we successfully done 8 of them. Now we're just got to get around to actually releasing them.
We both grown in a lot of ways, man. See, you got the CPM.
Yeah, a little award awesome. There. That's nice.
That's great.
So what is it like? You're all the way down in Florida. That's like that's your main residence, shall we say? And then the rest of your band is up here. How does that work?
Well, here's how I view it, and it's very funny to me. Like everything is kind of funny to me. I'm just like, this sounds good, so maybe this will work. So I view it as Justin Angelo North and Justin Angelo South. Like Justin Angelo Band North, Justin Angelo Band South. So the whole goal with leaving in general was because I had an opportunity to make money and do something full time and not be necessarily like struggling. So like I can firmly say that money has not been an issue for me. Like rent has not been an issue for me.
Oh, that's nice.
And so that's been very like rewarding in its own ways, and it comes with its own sort of, trials and tribulations. But when you're making it through the stuff, it's a lot of affirmation to what you're doing, and kind of like, this is good. So then it became like, when I first got to Key West, it was like, let me play all these venues. And then now it's kind of like, okay, where do I want to play? Like, what times a day do I want to play? Like, I kind of can choose a little bit more just to be like more on top of like vocal rest and more on top of like
Right.
my actual like how I feel when I walk into a venue, more routine, more kind of ritual kind of stuff. So that's been super great. I mean, that's what it's like doing that. I really like balancing the North and the South. I mean, I played 2 open mic nights last night. I went over to the Marietta Tavern. Bobby Fry and Jamie were playing. Those are my boys. So went over to play with my band members, and we had a great time. And all my friends were there, and it was welcomed with open arms. And went over to Hell in a Bucket, and they were shutting it down. Bjorn was shutting it down, and him and Robin packed up and left. And then one of my friends came in. They're like, "Come on, he came the whole way from Key West. You gotta let him play." And the guy's like, "Here, you want this cable?" So I'm like, "Sure." So I'm like playing for like there was like 2 people in the bar, and then by the time I'm done, there's like 20 people in the bar.
There you go.
So it's just like super fun to kind of run around and do that stuff. But the goal is always to expand. So like Jamie has some friends in Sarasota, Siesta Key area, and Kyle has some friends out there, and James has played all over, and Bobby's played all over. So it's all about taking these connections and going, okay, like Key West to Siesta Key to Sarasota, up to a buddy of mine who plays it in New Orleans, and a buddy of mine who plays in the Virginia Beach music scene, like stuff like that. Like you set that stuff up, and then that's how you can make a feasible tour and go, hey, well, my buddy's only an hour from here. We can go and stay with him. It's not going to cost us anything, and then we can go and do that and actually make money. So now it's at the point of like a financial end where I'm like, okay, well, Kyle, you teach lessons and stuff, so how much money is it going to take to get you off work?
Right.
So I'm getting minimums from everybody now to go, okay, how do I make this feasible? And once the money stress aspect of it is gone, it just becomes a heck of a lot of fun. So that's kind of the goal. They're all coming down. We're doing a week at the Hog's Breath Saloon. We're doing 9:30 to close every night.
Oh wow!
So that's the headliner slot, and we
that's
do
cool.
and we do it for the whole week. So we're at the same spot the whole week, which is really cool. And I'm at
it's
the
like
point.
A residency. They don't really do that much anymore.
Yep. So we're doing that, and then I'm setting up day gigs like in and amongst it. So we're not gonna do a day gig every day, but I want to do like a morning gig where at a pool and Jamie's doing djembe, and then like maybe an afternoon gig where it's like we're out in an open space and the music's welcoming, and then you have the late night thing, which is rowdy. So I kind of want to get all those aspects in. I wanted to bring a videographer along and kind of do that stuff, kind of get the candid aspect of all the members of the band and really showcase the unit. Because I don't want people to be like, oh, this is the Justin Angelo show. I want them to realize that like the people that are in this project because they benefit the musicality. And I really want that to be showcased.
Yeah, so, I mean, talking about content, last time we had a long conversation about content.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking, this time, I want to talk about the live streaming aspect. What all goes into setting up something that you want to do, which is the live streaming process, which is to showcase the candid moments, to really expand upon, I would imagine, your Instagram and TikTok feed.
Yeah, so...
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm kind of leaning. I mean, I primarily do well on Facebook and Instagram. That's primarily where I'm doing well. The TikTok thing. So what I've done, like I'll give you an example. So we went and recorded a song over there in Rocklidditz like last year, and the song came out so well that I was like, okay, well, these other albums have to be released first because it builds up to this thing. Not that the quality's insanely better. I mean, it is. But it's not, when I listen to the music and listen to this and listen to that, it's not like, oh, we have to release that after because it's better. No, I think it feels like a natural progression of music.
Right, okay.
So, like, then you're thinking, like, okay, well, I brought my photographer, James Giffen, and I brought Star Bunner in. He's my videographer. So I brought them in, and he recorded the whole thing. Well, Star is like a fly on the wall. So he was recording me having like conversations with the band, us talking about stuff, us working stuff out. So I chopped that up into like probably an hour of footage. I probably chopped it up into like 76 pieces. So I already have all the short form content done, and I haven't released a single video yet.
Right.
So, and that's the kind of thing is like, that's what's going to be on the TikTok and Instagram shorts. That's a whole different animal from the thing I want to do with the live streaming.
Right.
Like, I don't want, like, my intention is not for it to be like, oh, tune in live to watch me do this process, because it's a long process. But I wanted it to be a documentary kind of thing about how I think about things, how I make these decisions, what my thought processes are when I'm going through it. I don't care how long it is. It's gonna be long as crap. It's gonna be super long, but whatever. It's about like, because people only see like the tip of the iceberg on something that you're working on,
Right.
and I want them to see more of that process. So for me, like I have my setup, so I have like a camera mount that comes through where my speakers. So I have speakers, reference speakers, rack mount over here. So in the middle, DSLR camera with a mount, and then on the side where my laptop is, I bought an Insta 360 webcam that moves.
Right.
So if
yeah.
I move across the room, it'll follow me. So and then I need another DSLR camera to face the rack mount, so that when I go to do analog stuff, like I'm sending it out of the box now, and now it's going into this rack mount. They have to see me putting the patches into the patch bay, messing with the knobs, going, okay, cool, let's print that. All right, here's what it sounds like. Oh, let's tweak it. All right, let's print that. And then the screen sharing of the actual Pro Tools thing, along with like a green screen, like a pop-up green screen that I can do the circle for my head in the corner.
Right.
Or like the Instagram 360 be like the square shot, and it's all in 4K. So like I've been doing all that testing without putting any of it out, because I just believe in putting out the best quality that I can put out from the jump. Like that's what I want to do. Like and it's never going to be perfect. So
No.
there has to be a point that you kind of assess like where you want to be, but I'm just the kind of person that I don't go into something like that. I like watched hundreds of hours of YouTuber, vlogger people saying, this is how you do lighting, this is how you do this is how you set up the Stream Deck, this is how you set up the DSLR camera, this is the right settings for your GoPro Hero 10. Like I'm watching hours and hours of this content just to make sure that when I go to do stuff, it's not going to sidetrack me when I get into it. Like in other words, if I didn't have it set up right and I go to do the shot and the shot doesn't look good, well, now I'm taking time to sit there and mess with the camera instead of working on the actual creativity aspect.
Right.
So it has to be like a genius environment. And I've talked about this before. So the genius environment is like, if I can get into the studio, plug the guitar in, and be working within 5 to 10 minutes, you're going to be more productive than if you invite people in and go, hey, let's hang out in here for an hour before we do anything.
100%.
So that's just what I believe in. So that's what I'm setting up.
I could learn a little bit of that.
I think we all could. I mean, it's funny, like the quality that I'm watching. I'm like, because I don't even put myself in that place. Like, well, once I start doing it and you see what's coming out, like people are gonna be like, oh, they're gonna feel like however they're gonna feel about it. You can't control any of that.
No, and that.
But I can control how comfortable I feel going
Sure.
into it,
Yes,
and I think
100%.
that's important for the quality's sake.
Yeah, no, we just got. Do you know Chris Ryder? Are you familiar with him?
I'm familiar. Yeah.
I just bought a camera off of him.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. They
he
know what they're
knows-
doing, bro.
Yeah, so we're gonna be switching over to that
Mhm.
very, very soon. Once I buy the HDMI cable to run it right into here.
The Elgato 4K like cam,
Yeah.
the cam, like I have a couple of those laying around. So.
I'm so excited for that upgrade, and then we're gonna fix the lighting in here and make it all better, and get multiple cameras. I'm excited.
Well, and I'm a big like vintage video game player.
Are you?
So I have like a N64. I have the GameCube with the Game Boy player on it. So I play Pokemon on there. I'm actually currently sorting out to complete the Gen 3 Pokedex for Emerald and Fire Red. So
That's a task.
I'm about 85% of the way through it. I just have to get all the rest of the legendaries and send them all over. So like, and they make this thing now called the Game Boy operator. You can plug it in and you can do the emulator on the cartridge on your computer.
Oh, that's fun.
So like I say I'm doing this for music, but we all know that I'm just gonna be playing Smash Brothers and playing Pokemon on this as well.
100%.
Like if Post Malone's allowed to play Call of Duty, I'm allowed to play this. It's
Right.
like so adding some fun too, which I feel like keeps me motivated. I feel like if it's all work all the time, then you kind of lose sight of your goal and how far you've come.
Speaking about work, is music is your full-time job?
It is.
So,
It's been for a long time.
yeah.
I did music for 8 years full time when I was living here, and now I've currently been doing for 5 years in Key West.
What is that
So-
like? Because I'm sure Key West is mad expensive.
Yeah, make my rent in like 3 days though.
Really?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. I mean, it's just about fire. It's about your fire. I feel like there's a good quote about this. It's one pair of hands at work are better than 1,000 clasped in prayer. And I feel like that, I mean, for me, like, it comes down to an action thing, like, because I'm a what I would call, like, I like prepare things. Like, I don't just do it. I prepare to do it. And I feel like when I finally like in other words, if I could easily go home and throw this up and do the thing and then critique myself the entire way through the process, or I can make it the best I can possibly do and go, hey, this is the best I can do with the knowledge I currently have. And I think that's a better aspect to be going into things with. So I definitely want to prepare for the situation to the best of my ability, so I can feel like, okay, like it's like Jurassic Park. It's like sped no expense.
Right.
So when I'm working that hard to get the gear that I want and to get the result that I want, it gives me more motivation to actually follow through instead of saying I'm going to do something and then just never doing it.
Right.
And it's funny because, Jamie, I was talking to him yesterday, my drummer, and our drummer, and he goes, I was like, dude, this album is sounding awesome, man. This album we recorded in your place. And he's like, that's great. Well, we need to do more stuff. Like, we need to do more stuff anyway. And I'm like, yeah, but, this thing is so good. And I think that's what it is I find the little bits of beauty. And I was talking to this with Star, our videographer. He came to the open mic last night to kick it for a little while. He didn't stay for my set, but he stayed to, hang out and talk, and I really appreciated it. And it was the 4th, so it was just, a very relaxed, environment. We're all just, chilling, having a good time. And I was saying that, there are some songs, that I listen to still that were recorded by, local people that have no numbers on Spotify, never made it on there, or, something that was, a SoundCloud download that I had this from some unknown person. But there's, this inherent beauty and this inherent wholeness in that thing. And I feel like that's what you miss when people are kind of bringing up these arguments oh, the radio stinks or whatever. I'm like, but Hosier's doing awesome.
Right.
So it's you kind of got to pick and choose. And I feel like it's always been like that. But, there's a song, what is it called? Sword in a Stone. That's what it's called. It's by this band. I think it's called Blind Man Leading. They were a local band that they all worked at Guitar Center when they would release these Guitar Center CDs. So they released CDs that they had. You could just pick it up as you walked in and out of Guitar Center of all the employees' music they were working on.
That's cool.
I listen to that song all the time. And the lyric of the hook is, when I learn a lesson, I learn it well. And I think that's, cool. That song has inherent beauty. I really like the sonics. I really like the vocals. I really like everything about that. Does that have all the numbers on Instagram and Spotify? No. So does that matter? No. I mean, we're all just, here's the thing, pour all your time and energy, but if you go and compare my Instagram to somebody else's, I'm lower than they are. I guarantee it. I almost guarantee it. But the thing about that perspective is, what happens when Instagram goes down? Are you driving them to your website? Are you driving them to your email list? Are you able to market them to a T-shirt that you're releasing? Are they being notified when your album is coming out? Or are they just listening to you that one Friday on Spotify that your stuff gets released and then putting it in the trash can? Yeah. So I feel like the focus is always to drive it back home to your website and market it well. And there are some people in this town who do that very well, like Matt Wheeler, like Leo DeSanto, James Klippel doing Winter Park stuff. That stuff, they do it well. So I think that's more of an attestment to what the actual goal is versus what we think the goal is and what society tells us the goal is versus what it is in here in our heart,
Speaking of that, you can check out Justin Angelo.
Yeah, cheap plug.
Cheap plug. And all my stuff too at CoraRosaProductions.com. Yeah, it's fun working on websites and stuff like that. I've especially with all the stuff I do. Since we've last met, I've become an award-winning film composer, and I've composed film for a feature film that should be coming out in theaters.
Yep.
So you should be able to go see it in Key West whenever it comes out.
Oh yeah. I'm sure it'll be. If it's at the Tropic, a little boutique one, I'll definitely go. Yeah.
Always fun updating stuff and keeping stuff flowing.
Yeah.
Speaking of keeping stuff flowing, you have some music that you brought today.
I have a couple exclusives today.
Yeah.
I thought I always like bringing an exclusive to a thing like this because, I understand even now with Instagram and everything, you'll go when I see people that I'll genuinely share their stuff because they're doing it well. You'll see that they'll release a song and then it's the same song but a different background, different hook, different meaning. So they're doing the same thing that advertising agencies do, where they go if you haven't seen it 6 or 7 times, you're probably not gonna do it. So that's what they're doing, which I think is really good. But at the same time, like, I like bringing exclusives to this kind of a situation because you're deliberately not regurgitating something.
Right.
And I think that's important for anyone as an artist to constantly be like, hey, check this little thing out, check this little thing out. And I'll bring things that aren't done to kind of give a teaser, give a little bit of like, hey, this is the directions we're going in. And
we got some of that today too.
Yeah. But I know that we'll play Brown Eyes today.
Yes.
Brown Eyes is an acoustic track currently. I have like some bird sounds and some environmental stuff in there, which is cool. But it's mostly just like guitar and 2 vocals. I recorded it with Dan Mayer, who's currently doing the stuff with Galactic Empire. Yeah. So I've been following his little thing. So he actually helped me record this so I could kind of sit down and just do the thing. And he helped me do like the mic placement and stuff. And I recorded with him at Think Loud too. He's the one who did Hey Hey.
Okay.
So it was cool to bring him out and be like, hey, do this thing. But Brown Eyes will eventually have a big like cello part in it. So like I'm working on Fiverr right now and just trying to like, hey, who can do this? Who's got a studio? Whose tone's got good? But you know, the song's great on its own. So
why don't you check out Liam?
Yeah, I know. I gotta get him out though.
Yeah, right.
I gotta get to where I'm at, you know.
I bet he'd do it.
I'm sure he would.
100% bet he would.
Him and Ben Brand are busy boys though.
They are busy.
Busy boys.
They are very busy.
Yeah.
Well, hey, let's take a listen to Brown. What is Brown Eyes about?
So Brown Eyes is it's funny because, like, you know, like the whole brown-eyed girl thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a whole brown-eyed girl like cover trope,
yes,
where you're like, oh, play brown-eyed girl or play Freebird or whatever. So I'm doing Brown Eyes. It's about a person with brown eyes. I wrote it to this girl that I was dating at the time, and then she like left me 2 days later, which is fine. I think it's just I think it's a testament to how much like, you feel something.
That's so funny.
Oh, it's hilarious. But I want to pitch it to like a local brewery and see if I can get a Brown Eyes brown ale out of it and kind of play it into a music video. I think that would be kind of fun. So that's kind of the whole attestment is that's what it's about.
Well, let's take a listen.
Unrequited love.
Brown Eyes.
Those brown eyes, oh how they lead me in to this place that I have never been. Calm and cared for, I can feel your love. I'm a better person when I'm in your clutch. I don't wanna pry, I don't wanna force, I just adore the sound of your voice. Throw me a smile, just one wish. Got a feeling it doesn't get better than this. Can't explain how I know, but I've heard of other tales that show why my heart won't leave me be. Brown eyes, don't look away from me. Brown eyes, don't look away from me. I am powerless to your touch. My entire body can feel the rush. When you've gone, I'm not sure what to do. 'Cause all my mind does is lead back to you. But I don't wanna pry, I don't wanna force, I just adore the sound of your voice. Throw me a smile, just one wish. I know I don't wanna let go of this. Can't explain how I know, but I've heard of other tales that show why my heart won't leave me be. Brown eyes, don't look away from me. Brown eyes, don't look away from me. One more text and now I'm tossed about. Every moment it gets better, no doubt. Not sure where all of this will lead. So won't you lean in and kiss kiss me, 'cause I don't wanna pry, I don't wanna force, I just adore the sound of your voice. Throw me a smile, just one wish. If it's you, you know I can't resist. I can't explain how I know, but I've heard of other tales that show why my heart won't leave me be. Brown eyes, don't look away from me. Brown eyes, don't look away from me. Brown eyes, don't look away from me.
And that was Brown Eyes. Do you have any plan to release for that?
Not yet. I mean, I think it's harder to plan a release when you want to nail down a sponsor, and you want to nail down like doing the art for the beer, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's all these things that kind of go into it. So if that doesn't work out, then I'll just plan for the release, because I want that to be the kind of gate jumper, and then be like, okay, now, because in my recording process, like, I did Down to Earth, and then I was already writing this one I'm working on that's done now, called Middle Ground. So it's supposed to be Down to Earth, Middle Ground, and then I have another one that I'm not gonna tell you what the name is. So
No.
so it's Down to Earth, and then Middle Ground, and then the third one. So basically, in between me, while I was still making Middle Ground, is when, because Down to Earth was out, and I was working on Middle Ground, and I was like, maybe like all the tracking was done, but I was just kind of like saying, okay, this needs to go here, this mix needs to go here, I like this, I don't like this has to be redone, like that kind of process. But while I was working on Middle Ground, I got the opportunity to do Analog EP, and that's like the one that I pushed to everybody, that got me all the gigs everywhere, because it had my face on it. It was easy to promote. It was easy to be like, hey, here you go, face of the name thing, like the hand-to-hand combat thing we talked about. So that, like, that kind of got in the way a little bit, because I was already working on like the answer to the first album. So now there's been so much time in between it. I want to be like, hey, here's something that is not this, that is new, you know? And then I want to go, hey, throwback to when I was doing this, here's this thing. And then right after be like, oh, well, and this is the band's album, because we made a band album. And we don't necessarily have a title for it, but I made a joke title, which I think is probably just going to stick. I called it Music for People versus like Music for Rabbits or something, you know?
Right.
Yeah, like Metalocalypse, like Ocean, you know, the Blood Ocean or whatever. So just funny. So Music for People is the band album, working title for that. And then we have a single. We have the LVC sessions, which is done. That's what Whiskey and Wine is from, that you'll play later. So Whiskey and Wine is from that. And then I have my band headlined the Hard Rock Baltimore. Oh, nice. So I have another live album, because I have our New Year's Eve album on Spotify, which is the Live from the Altana Lounge. So I wanted to do another live band album. So we have the band record, my solo record that was the answer to my first record, and then we have the LVC, which is the college thing, and then we have the live band record. So that's already 4 like albums, and the LVC one's only, I think, 3 or 4 songs. The band album, I think it's between 10 to 12, and Middle Ground, the solo album, is 15.
Wow.
And then the Hard Rock, we did 21 tracks, but I'm breaking it down to probably 7 or 8. Just because, like, you know, I feel like some things are just kind of like, I only deliberately release something when, like, here's another aspect to see, instead of like, here's just more songs. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really care about that. But yeah, I already have I already have what my single is for the band album picked, but I know that that's not going to be the one that everybody thinks is the single for the album, just by production wise and what a single typically and traditionally sounds like, which is why I did that. Because, again, just against the grain consistently. Like, what is everybody doing? Let me do the opposite of that, you know? So that's kind of how it's going. So no necessary release dates, but I know where everything fits in the process. So I know that once this timeline starts, this gets released. Then a couple weeks later, this gets released. A couple weeks later, this gets released. Or a month later, this gets released. So I kind of know that. But Brown Eyes is a very peculiar thing, because, you know, I want to do a video. I want it to be a branded
Right.
beer. Like, I want the artwork for it to resonate with the company that's going to do it, which I don't have yet. So there's like a lot of like this juggling thing. But, you know, I know that even if I don't get that right away, I'll still be able to kind of do a music video, and, you know, maybe I just get a random beer bottle and put Brown Eyes Brown Ale in like a tape, which would be funny. Like, again, leaning into this, like, oh, we couldn't get a sponsor. Well, just use some duct tape. Like, you know,
Yeah,
it's
right.
like it's like this kind of thing where, you know, you have to be constantly willing to shift in order to get the thing out. Like, just because you can't get someone to make you a beer, just because you can't get someone to endorse you for this, doesn't mean that you still can't do the idea that you had.
Oh, sure.
So, you know, that's kind of where I'm at with those processes.
So it seems like you're more of an album dude than a singles dude.
I love doing albums because albums are cohesive. I am an album listener. I am a record purchaser. You know, I mean, I went to Lidditz, the little record shop there in Lidditz next to Dozy Doe, and they had Dave Matthews, a double set of The Gorge, and I was like, well, let me buy that. Like, could I go listen to it on Spotify? Yeah, but I like having the medium.
Yeah.
Like, I've always liked having the medium. And even in today's day and age, I think if you're a musician who has a CD and you can't sell it at your show, take it to a venue that you really want to play and do the hand-to-hand combat thing and use that thing as your business card. Like, if, you know, there are ways to be creative and to do this thing. Like back when I released Down to Earth and Analog EP, CD Baby was pushing, like, the download cards. And that's, like, not even a thing anymore. Like, no one's going to take a card and download it and do that thing, like, unless, like, they feel a certain type of way about physically doing that thing. But I throw them in, like, a gift bag, and then when someone wins, like, a giveaway, you just throw a bunch of them in the gift bag.
Right.
And then, you know, where you go, like, hey, check this thing out. Here's a business card. Here's a song. And people are like, oh, that's cool. Like, it's not something that I'm doing for money. It's something that I'm doing for engagement.
Yes.
You know, and personal engagement, not like social like social media engagement. Very different animals.
No, 100% agree, especially when the internet goes down, as often it might, especially in Florida.
Definitely an album guy, dude. Definitely an album guy. I feel like it'll always be like that.
So, where do you want to go with your albums? Like, is there some is there any particular topics that you want to explore, or?
Well, it's cool. Down to Earth had a lot of, like, humanitarian lyrics. Like, you know, Great Desire had the lyric. It was like, would you search your pockets to spare somebody change? A dollar may not change your world, but it may change someone's day.
Mm-hmm.
So the kind of humanitarian aspect I really liked. Middle Ground is more of, like, what it is. It's like you're being down to earth and thinking about things from this perspective. Middle Ground has things like, you know, there's a song called Round and Round where it's like a bunch of loops, you know, but the whole thing is like it all goes round and round until my brothers lay me dead in the ground.
Mm.
So it's like one of these things where it's like someone who feels like they're stuck in a cyclical thing, so that you're leaning more toward like that kind of consciousness realm. And the same thing with, like, there's a couple songs on the band record, like there's one called Gentle Edge where it says, I don't know why it takes so much out of my energy. I don't know why it's not just love that you'd store in your memory.
Mm.
So things like that, like things that are very personal to your heart and kind of like overarching themes like that we feel the pressure of, but we don't really talk about.
Right.
That's kind of the stuff I want to dig into versus being like, hi, I'm this dude. I'm the best. Check out my thing at www.wah. Like, you know, it's I feel like we're leaning more toward the being more genuine and being more like, this is the messy part of it.
Right.
And I feel like that kind of brings you totality as an artist. I feel like pop does the exact opposite, where they go, like, think about Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift was first like, oh, I'm some, you know, local girl from Wyomissing, PA, and now I'm on this pedestal that nobody can touch. So, like, I kind of like to avoid the pedestalization because I don't believe that any local person who doesn't have the financial backing to do so, I don't think doing that benefits you.
No.
I don't think saying, like, oh, we're the best and we're, like, you know, formidable and all this stuff, like, it doesn't help you connect with your audience.
No.
You have to connect with your initial audience, and then as things get bigger, you have to then shift your business model to adhere to that. And I think that's what people like John Mayer have done very well. That's what people like Dave Matthews have done very well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jason Mraz has done that very well. So, and those are all my heroes. So,
Yeah.
and John Mayer's an album guy. Jason Mraz will say he's a singles guy because they always release singles, but he's an album guy too. I know it deep down. And Dave Matthews has always been an album guy, so
there you go.
And you know where I picked that up from? We're always going back to the derivative version of where I started, which is metal. And there ain't no singles in metal, not really. You know, not in death metal. It's an album. It's a EP. You know, there's always like a long play kind of content thing going on there. And as somebody who buys vinyl, like, why would you not do the thing? You know, it's like it's like I love vinyl and I love buying cassettes and stuff, but I'm just gonna make singles. Like, it's like, to me, it's just it's not craft cheese. You know, it's you're buying the whole pack. You might eat one at a time, but you're buying the whole pack. You know, it's like gum. You know, it's like gum. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that.
Well, hey, we're gonna get to your next song, "Veteran," which is not completely done yet.
Yeah, so "Veteran" isn't done. I'm very happy with the mix. The music video is done. I shared it to a buddy who has family in the armed forces, and it made him cry. And he hated it. And then he came back to me about a week later and was like, this really like hit me in a place. Like, and I'm like, it's supposed to hit you in a place. And we played "Veteran" live last year. Steve Schlegel with Shenanigator. He was doing the music for the food truck festival, for the 4th of July food truck festival in Harrisburg.
Oh, nice.
So last year we played that and we headlined the one day, and we played "Veteran," and so I have live footage of that. So once we go to actually release it, you know, I'll have the live footage of that. I have the music video done, but my goal is to get it on TouchTunes. This is the song I want to get on TouchTunes. This is the song I would really like Wounded Warrior to care about.
Right, yeah.
These are things like that, you know, not that I need them to care about me, because like I've never been in the armed forces, but I have plenty of friends and family. Like my mom's dad was in, you know, the armed forces, and you know, people I play with in Key West or veterans, you know.
Right.
And there's a big naval base thing there. So,
yeah.
You know, I want it to be evidently clear that like I don't necessarily support like or endorse like political aspects of these things, but like
the veterans are people.
These people sacrifice their time.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important thing to remember, is that they're people who are sacrificing their time in the way that somebody else is sacrificing their time for you in little ways. Like when someone holds a door for you and you feel that like thank you for doing that. That's what they feel when you give them the acknowledgement. And I think that's what I wanted to be shown.
Yeah, giant shout out to all of our veterans who have sacrificed their time and much more.
Yeah, you gotta be polarizing sometimes, I guess. But I felt the need, and I had the song written out, and it just felt like this is what it should be. And Kyle Hancock did an amazing job on the solo in this song, an amazing job at really getting that gritty kind of tone out of it, and I'm so appreciative of how it's going. So,
well, let's take a listen.
Yeah.
A man of means but 17, got much weight on his back. Ship him well off overseas, you pray he makes it back. Give him up and come what may, hope to see him round Christmas Day. All in all, you still hear the sound of boots there underground. He feels his blood come to a boil, landing down on enemy soil. Well, this ain't no fun and games, you'll shoot your eye right out. They say on your way home, no amount of silver or gold is enough to buy back your soul once you're on the heavenly road. Here goes my friend in army green. Risk his life so that I can live mine free. And he may not see his mother's face. I think we ought to wish him well, give him all of my grace. 'Cause he's a veteran, and he's my friend. been just a few weeks since he stopped riding back. Whenever Mom goes into the door, it nearly has a heart attack. Just the feeling and anxiety to trade. Just the thought of men in suits coming to the door with a folded flag. There goes my friend in army green, risks his life so that I can live mine free. And he may not see his mother's face. I think we ought to wish them well, give them all of my grace. 'Cause he's a veteran, and he's my friend. There goes my friend in army green, risked his life so that I can live mine free. He may not see his mother's face. I throw a coin to the wishing well, give him all of my grace.
And that was a rough mix of veteran.
Yeah.
What's left to do with that?
Just polishing it up. I mean, like, I have all the rack units and stuff at home that I like using. Like, I'm not sure if, like, I want a choir in one part of, like, the last chorus, maybe.
Be fun.
I'm not sure if I want to run, like, and like, I have the Apollo, so I have a bunch of UA plugins, so might run, like, a Capitol Chambers reverb on just, like, the snare. Like, you know, just things that are kind of going to pull and make it a little bit more real. Because I feel like the song has good bones, and I feel like the song has, like, very good lyrical content and meaning without being too, like, either way about
like
it.
Divisive? Or...
Yeah. Divisive is something. I mean, I wrote that line with Lady Liberty, too. When I wrote Lady Liberty and released it, it was, like, it's more like social commentary on the political scale versus, like, actually being, like, I'm on this side of the political scale. And someone who was good at that was Michael Jackson.
Yes.
So, kind of following that line a little bit, you know. So that's
and
kind
Randy
of the goal.
Newman, for that matter.
Randy
too.
Newman, yeah.
Yeah, I just
Toy Story King.
To Short People. Have you ever heard of
Yeah,
Short
Short People got. Yeah. Oh, dude, Randy Newman, Toy Story King.
Absolutely, 100%. And so, you mentioned you have this band album coming on. Let's talk about the band a little bit.
Yeah.
Who's all in it? We talked about a little bit about Jamie and everyone else, but
well, so the way I can sum up Jamie is he's such a good drummer and a great human being, like, you know. And I don't know if anybody has seen, but he has like Native American in his family. I have Native American in my family.
Okay.
He has like these like wooden flutes, and they have like he's been doing like Native American wooden flutes and drum powwow stuff. So he's like been doing that and putting it out on YouTube.
That's so
it's
cool.
really cool. But Jamie's like this guy. One time when we were making the album, we were in the studio and I made this fake pie chart, and it said how much time you actually spend doing what on an album. And I made a big one that I just gave to Jamie that, like, the big pie part just said drinking coffee. Because, like, he's not alive until he drinks coffee. So I always give him crap about it. I'm like, coffee and cigarettes is all Jamie needs, you know? So that's kind of the way, you know? And I feel like the lead guitar parts always take the longest because we have so many options. Like, Kyle's such a great player, and James on the keys. They're such great players that it's like we don't want to get lost in doing, like, 1,500 takes of guitar, or 1,500 takes of, like, James is really good at kind of setting where it's going to go, and that kind of puts us at least in a box of what we're going to do. But if we can't get it in 7 takes or so, you know, 8, 9 takes, I'll be like, hey, man, let's come back tomorrow, because we could sit here all day and do this.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
It's the same thing with me at home with the rack units. It's like, if I don't deliberately know what sound I'm looking for, like, don't even bother. Because it'll just be 2 hours of you doing nothing, you know? So that's cool. I went to the open mic night last night with Bobby and Jamie at the Marietta Tavern, and man, like when Bobby's been playing with Jamie for like I think like 30 years.
Wow.
So they're like in like Flynn, you know.
Yeah.
And we had Mike Grisafi playing lead, and Grisafi destroys.
I love Grisafi.
He's
so
a
much.
ripper, man. That guy. I mean,
He
he
needs to
came
come
up.
on the show.
I was making a joke with him because he has a Carvin, his custom Carvin, but his case says Carvey. So I bumped Jamie. I'm like, hey man, like, does he have a Carvin or a Carvey? And I asked him, just poking fun. He goes, you know, it's a Carvey sometimes. It gets kind of Carvey, you know. So that's cool. But the thing about Bobby that I want to come back to is like, even when Bobby's playing with another drummer, like I'll be listening to him in an open mic night doing stuff with people. I'll be like, this sounds really good, and then I'll be like, I almost forget he's there. Like him and the drummer, they were just doing like blues, but they're so in that like they're just adding to the whole thing, and you just don't even like contemplate how good it actually is until you're like sitting back and you're like, they're running this whole thing right now.
Yeah, right.
Like they're driving this whole thing. So that's the thing about Bobby is just he's just any situation you never have to worry about him. So like I never have any worries hiring Bobby ever, you know. And I've known Kyle for a long time. Kyle performs very great under pressure. Like when we were at the studio and
That's
you know
nice.
when we were trying to get the takes and he's like, well, you know, this like he's very like I don't know how to say this without saying it weird, so I'm just gonna say he's very riff conscious. Like he's just like, is this too much? Is this doing this? And he's always the kind of guy to come up and be like, is this too much? Is this messing with anything anyway? And I really like that about Kyle versus being like, I'm the lead player and I get to choose. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
the exact opposite of what I don't want to deal with, you know? So I love Kyle so much. And James, like I said before, he just has it. I actually brought James down for a week to Key West to play. I had gotten hit by a dude opened his car door while I was riding my bike in the bike lane. So
Oh,
my arm was
no.
messed up and I couldn't really play that well. So James came out and, you know, by the time he got there, like I was playing a little bit, but I couldn't do like my full range of stuff, so I was limited. So he came down and was playing all the lead lines. I was doing all these cover songs. He's just like, here's a lead line in another key. Didn't even have to learn it. Here it is. Like
he
I'll-
is insane.
Yeah, and Aaron Tressat was our old keyboard player, and he's in the Max Impact Air Force Band
Oh,
with like
wow.
Gabriel Stansnick. He's like part of that American Music Theater crew with like Andy Mowat and everybody.
Yeah.
So Aaron, I met him in the studio and we were doing analog with Bobby Gentillo, and Brendan Stengel was our bass player, guy from Music for Everyone. Him and I are such good friends. So
Should tell him to come on the show.
oh yeah, love him. Great. He was so supportive to me for the early like part of my band, like when it was actually my band and not like a derivative, like this is our folk project with 5 members or this is our thing with people switching around. Like Brendan was very, very great. So when we were tracking it with Aaron, like Aaron was like, hey, well, you know, I'm doing this thing. I'm going to boot camp. I'm going to the Air Force Band. Like, I'm not going to be able to do this stuff. And I was
Right.
like, all right, cool. So last thing we did with him was Hey Hey, where he did the clav solo and Hey Hey. And he actually recommended James. And ever since I saw James, I think I met him at the Mexitali open mic, I think, when it was still doing it in York. And the dude he just rocks. And whenever I'm in town, like, you know, he was playing at the one Columbia Cafe the one day in the morning. And I showed up, he's like, what are you doing here? Like, and I'm like, well, I'm coming to your show. Like, you know, I like what you're doing, you know, and I always try to be supportive about him and his thoughts and views about things. Cause you know, I mean, you have to understand everybody's human and we all have our, you know, we're all apprehensive to different things and we're all like comfortable with different things. So in a band, it's so important to be aware of that and to be like, hey, like, let's talk about this thing. Let's talk about that thing. I want to be supportive of this. I don't want to be supportive of this, you know, like
Right.
stuff like that. So you got to hold the line, but that's what I really like. And, you know, but Kyle's a workaholic, man. Hit him up.
He
He's
is,
like, sorry,
100%.
I couldn't come to the open mic last night. And I'm like, that's fine. I don't expect you to like drop everything to come see me. He's like, well, I'm doing lessons today and then I got a gig tonight and then I'm doing lessons tomorrow and then I got 2 gigs later. I'm like, yeah, dude, like,
It's ridiculous.
it's what I talked about with the minimum thing. It's like, how much do I have to pay you to get you to
Right,
leave
right,
you know,
right,
your
yeah.
job for a week, you know? But I love the band so much, and it's why I haven't made a different one. You know, it hasn't been about chemistry. There's plenty of people in Key West that I want to record with and I want to play with, but that's not the group of guys that I feel at home with when I'm playing.
Right.
You know, and there's a difference between like inherent chemistry and people that you've worked kinks out with for a while. you know, and I'm not the kind of person who would better deal somebody. Like, I'm not gonna go, oh, well, you're like, this guy's better than you and he's less, so I'm gonna take him. Like, I'm not gonna do that.
Right.
Loyalty is where I stand on those things, you know. So long as they want to work with me, I will want to work with them, you know.
There you go. Well, we got one last song.
Yeah.
Whiskey and Wine.
Yeah, so Whiskey and Wine was recorded at the LVC. It was my intern, Ryan Harding. I took him down to Key West. It was him and a couple other boys. They were in their senior year of their audio engineer thing. And we got to do a couple songs, and I like Whiskey and Wine, man. It's cool. It's cool rocking little tune, and it's like rough and gritty, but it's like rough and gritty in like the best possible way. Like, there are some things that I do where I'm like, this doesn't need to be anything else. Like, this just needs to be what it is. So I just really like that the whole tune is kind of like just recording like the thing you're doing. And the drummer on this is actually it's Dustin Love. He was from Mechanicsburg. So that was our current drummer at the time. And I'm pretty sure Brendan is doing bass on this as well. So that's kind of that's what we were doing with that. And I considered sending it to Jamie to have him redo the drums, but it just felt like we should just be focusing more on like the actual stuff we're writing now versus focusing on that. But it's a good song and it's good content, so I didn't want to like strike it. And again, not the kind of person to be like, this is Jamie. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not just going to play it off. Like, you know, this was different setup, but, you know, love playing with the guys, love doing the opportunity, and this is Whiskey and Wine. Tell you up and down, I won't give you no attitude. You ain't gonna tell me twice. I'm just trying to ease my mind. I need a little bit of whiskey, I need a little wine to have a good time. Stuck in good for a round or two, but when the jack came out after a couple shots, I'm turning all black and blue. You ain't gotta say it again. You know that Jack's the only man. When I need a little bit of whiskey, I need a little wine to have a good time. To have a good time. Step by step through a melody lines, through every rhythm and groove. You ain't gotta say it all again. I'm not even gonna try and pretend. I don't need a little bit of whiskey, I need a little wine to have a good time. To have a good time. I need a little
my mind. Tell you what's heavy on my mind. Tell you what's heavy on my mind. Tell you what's heavy on my mind. I'll tell you what's heavy on my mind. 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 I need a little bit of whiskey. I need a little wine to have a good time. To have a good time.
And that was Whiskey and Wine.
Yeah.
And you said Aaron was playing the keys on that
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Aaron Tressat was playing the keys on that. You can always tell. Cause, well, he's just doing the organ stuff all the time because
Right.
he's so good at it. I mean, we have a couple of videos on YouTube from our analog EP release party, and Claire Brothers did the sound. Jim Beam sponsored and was like giving out
Nice.
like bourbon shots. I tried to get Jack Daniels, but they said no. So we hit up Jim Beam and we're like, "Hey, Jack Daniels said no," and they're like, "We'll do it."
Right,
Like
right.
I'm always like trying to pin these things against each other. You know, I'm like, hey, like when I was doing Hard Rock, I was pitching to Hard Rock, and I was like, hey, I want my band to headline here, and they were like, nah, and then I was like, well, House of Blues said they'd do it, and they were like, well, you could do us instead, but I didn't have House of Blues lined up. I just told them that, and they were
Yeah,
just like,
sometimes
yeah,
you just gotta fake it till you make it.
Yeah, you know.
Sometimes.
well, I just wanted the to be taken seriously, and sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
and sometimes you just have to be taken seriously,
Yeah,
you know. I mean, now that I have the reference letter from them, it's so much easier to get into other Hard Rocks because you just push
Right.
the reference letter now.
exactly.
But to get in the door, like you gotta do what you gotta do,
gotta do
you know. Yeah. But yeah, Aaron was playing the keys, and you can always tell when it's Aaron playing the keys, man. He has so many hours of playing at the American Music Theater that he's like, dude can do it in his sleep. He can do it backwards probably.
Well, hey man, we're gonna get to the time where I like to ask all the fun questions I like to ask everybody.
Sure.
I've got some new ones that you came back on.
Cool.
What are some techniques that you're still working on as a guitarist, singer, or as a business, really?
I'm always pushing the envelope with music. Like I started playing with this lady named Claire Finley in Key West. She invited me to start playing with her, and she plays with Playing for Change, the international like thing they tour and stuff. And she's been on The View. Like she's been like
That's
she
awesome.
played in like Alaska. Like she's all over the place. So when she first reached out to me, I was like hesitant. I was like, "You're like really good. Like I don't know if I could do this. Like I don't know if I'm up to this." You know, and she's like, sends me her song list, and then she's like, "We'll do this," and I'm like, "Okay." So I'm learning like Dreams by Fleetwood Mac or whatever, and then she's like, "Well, before the second verse, there's like a turnaround part, and that's actually in the song. Most people don't play that, but here's how you play that." So she sent me her stuff, and I'm like learning these things, and I want to do it because people want to come see her sing and play, and she's incredible international bass player, just incredible. But like that's the thing is like, you know, you're always rising to the occasion to kind of do that stuff, and I'm always pushing myself in that regard. You know, when I play on the Sebago boat, I have a list of backing tracks that I love to, like, while people are getting on the boat and we're pulling off the dock and the engines are real loud, I love just putting on like a backing track and just ripping improvisational leads to it. So I love just doing that and just being like, well, you're gonna sink or swim because none of this is planned.
Right.
You know, I have a general idea of where things are gonna be, but like I don't like doing the same thing every time,
No.
unless it's like a deliberate song. So
And that stuff is gonna improve your chops so
Yep.
much.
So that's a technique that I love to do. More now these days, it's more about keeping myself mentally in check. I think it's more about like I need to make sure I'm going into things with a good mood, or that one little minor thing isn't upsetting my whole day, or that I get the routine that I need to feel like the thing. You know, I'll never be the guy who's like, I need pink and blue M&Ms in my hotel room and it has to be 57 degrees. Like I'll never be that guy, but I will be the guy who says like, hey man, like if I can have a couple comforts here and there, like that, you know, will help me feel at home, then I'll feel better about doing the situation.
There you go.
So that I feel like the mental thing is not talked about as much, especially in us men. So
Oh yeah, 100%.
so I mean, I feel like it's a cool place to be vulnerable as a songwriter and vulnerable as a human being. I mean, like, you know, some days I'm just like not feeling my best. And I was talking to Hannah about last night. I was like, I didn't feel like I really did the best I could do last night. Just because like everything was like, I was like having fun. I was drinking a beer, you know, stuff that just like wears you down over the day. And I'm talking to everybody. So I'm like using my voice. And then, but she goes, you never feel like you do that. And I'm like, I'm like, yeah, but that one time. And she's like, did you feel like it then? And I'm like, yeah, probably not. So it's situations like this where, I know, like, when I'm in a studio situation, it has to be the right thing. Like, when it's at home, it's relaxed. If I mess up the take, you mess up the take. But I tend to perform well under pressure, and I tend to do well in those things. So it's nice to kind of, sometimes, like, I've been doing a lot of reflecting lately on, like, how good things have actually been versus how good I thought they were doing.
Right. One last question. What is one thing you have yet to do that you would like to do?
Become a Pokemon master. I'm on my way, dude. The moment I'm done, everybody's gonna know because it's gonna say Justin Angelo. It's gonna say Virgo, like the little thing, song crafter, and it's gonna say and Pokemon master. I'm not gonna go further into the gens. I think just because like I'm a '90s kid, so I wanted the '90s nostalgia.
And it's a little ridiculous nowadays.
Yeah. It's a heat. It's a heat. But no, like being all serious, the one thing that I haven't done that I'd very much like to do is go on a tour. I've never gone on like a full tour. I've never like had a bunch of dudes in a van and went to, all these different places and have stuff set up. And I'm not the kind of guy who is gonna just like go in a van and go to this place and try to get a gig. Like I'm the guy who's gonna set up a gig, make sure we're all financially covered. Like I'm not the kind of guy who's just gonna like
wing it.
Yeah. Like I mean Key West, that's what Key West has taught me is that I can live in a place and play full time and make money to buy the studio stuff and make time for the records. And so I don't have to do that. I don't have to slum it. I'm not going to stay in hotels every night. Like I'll stay at friends' houses and, do the stuff, but you don't have to slum it. So I'd very much like to see myself by next year. I would like to have a tour planned up here, up down there. I would love to have that done. I have some friends in some places, that I would like to go to, and I'd like to spend some time there and, just carve it out and do the deed, so to speak. So, yeah.
All right. Well, with that said, where can people find you?
You can find me at justinangelomusic.com, and you also have my Tappy link.
That's right.
So that's all my social links. So that's Spotify, email, phone number, like that's everything. So if you guys need to book me, get a hold of me, listen to my stuff, that's where you're going to go.
With all that said, my name is Corey Rose, and this has been The Story Podcast. You can find everything that I do over at CoreyRosenProductions.com. That's CORYROSEN Productions.com, where you can find all past 42 episodes of this show. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for what this next year is bringing in terms of music, film, and everything. So please be sure to check that out. Yeah. And as always, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.